Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Camp. I'm Director of Government Relations and Alumni Engagement, and we are joined here by other members of the Alumni Community Engagement team, Steph, Lauren, Maddie, and we have an alum, hey Cassandra, and a special guest who will walk us through civics for New Yorkers, and this is getting ready for the April 2nd election, the primary election, and also beyond into the rest of the election season. Some really important things to know on how to get ready to vote, and then how to stay civically engaged, how to get your friends to get ready to vote, volunteer opportunities. And the League of Women Voters has worked with Teachers College a number of times over the years. And you can see on their logo celebrating 100 years in New York. Similarly, Teachers College has a long history of civic activism. We just posted a story about an alum named Mabel Ping Hua Lee, who over about 100 years ago was a known suffrage leader and had famously in 1912 a suffrage parade where she led 10,000 people on horseback, and she's actually profiled in the League of Women Voters Erase Suffrage website, which is really fascinating to learn about civic leaders who his history is not as well known. So I'll hand it off to Kai Rosenthal, who is co-president of the League of Women Voters of New York. Thank you, Kai.
No, thanks, Matt. And if anyone has a question, please interrupt me. This is informal, and I'm going to go rather quickly because it sounds like most of you are pretty informed on voting, and some of you have already voted, which we love to hear. Just to add to Matt's comments about the League of Women Voters, we were founded in 1919, so we're actually a little over 100. And we are a nonpartisan organization, so we do not support political parties or candidates. We take positions on issues after lengthy study, and we are grassroots and all volunteers. So we have no paid staff. We all do it because we think this is an important civic obligation. And our goal really is to promote informed and active civic participation in New York City. So we want everyone to participate, whether you're a citizen, whether you're 18, there are ways that you can hold your elected officials accountable. So it's not just at the voting booth. But today we're going to just talk about voting and how to get ready, how to make sure you have all the information you need. Okay, let's see. There we go. So just, sort of knowing your rights and responsibilities about voting. And we're going to go and also making a voting action plan. So making sure you are registered to vote, know the important dates. So when is election day, when is primary day, when are early voting days, decide how you're going to vote. In New York right now, we have 3 ways to vote. Know your poll site. Be informed about the candidates and the ballot proposals, if there are any ballot proposals. And then, what's also very helpful is having some important websites ready for yourself, as well as for friends and family that might be interested in knowing more about candidates or ballot proposals. And so these are just some resources, great resources that give you more information, nonpartisan information. So the League's website, the New York City League's website, where we will have key dates and links to, registration forms. The New York City Board of Elections. So that's where you can find a lot of information in terms of your poll site location. You can register to vote. You can find important dates. The Department of Motor Vehicles is another way to register to vote in New York State, as long as you have a valid New York driver's license. And then the League on a national level maintains what we call Vote 411. So it's nonpartisan information about candidates. We ask candidates some questions about their views on different issues, and then we publish the information on this website. So it's usually updated closer to election days. It takes us a while to get the information from candidates. So these are great resources to make sure that you're informed before you go vote. I'm sure you all know this, voter qualifications in terms of being a US citizen, 18 years old, and you have to be a resident of New York City for at least 30 days. So obviously students are able to vote in New York City, or they can vote in their home state where their home address might be. There are some other qualifications. You can't be registered somewhere else. You cannot be incarcerated for a felony, but if you are on parole, you have every right to vote. There's no waiting period, and you can't be found incompetent by a court. And then just in terms of how to register to vote, it's pretty easy. A Department of Motor Vehicles you can go to the Board of Elections. New York State only about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, passed online voter registration. So in terms of, making voting easier and voter access easier, New York has come a long way in the last couple of years, but it used to be not have as easy voting laws as some other states. But it's great to know that now we do. Oh, yes, Andra,
Just a
please.
question. You were mentioning before, you said that if you're incarcerated for felony, you can't vote, obviously. But if you are out and you've served your time and you were a felon, can you vote?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, I
It
didn't know
can
that.
be day one of parole and you can vote.
Wow, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I also had a question, Kai. The online voter registration, is that the city and the state?
you can, the Board of Election, elections are run and voting is run by, the state, but you can register on the New York City Board of Elections site. So as long as you have either a valid New York driver's license or the last 4 digits of your Social Security.
And if you're living outside the city, can you register online?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
New York
okay.
City. Yes. Yep.
Great.
Yes.
Thanks.
And you can also register sort of the old-fashioned way on a paper registration form and mail it in. So, they're all different sort of methods, online and paper. And just Cassandra, on the note about the voting if you're on parole, actually the League of Women Voters is part of a coalition, Voting in Jails Coalition.
Wow.
So if you happen to be detained at Rikers, you have the right to vote. Or if you're so we actually partner with a number of different organizations, and we go to Rikers and we register detainees to vote. So they will register to vote, and then they'll apply immediately for an absentee ballot. You don't lose that right unless you have been convicted and are serving a felony violation.
That's great to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And if anyone wants to volunteer to go to Rikers, it's a very moving and fulfilling activity. So this is the form, the paper form. Just really quickly, you probably know all this, but in case you want to run your own voter registration, just going to give you some tips. Some of these things are optional. Your gender identification, in terms of putting down a phone or an email, is optional. We recommend adding one of those just in case there might be something that the Board of Elections can't read or can't understand. They can get in touch with you quickly versus by mail. And your name and address obviously must be current. So if you change your name because of a marriage or some other sort of a divorce, or if you moved, it all must be current. We'll get into this. There were some new election laws that were passed last September that Governor Hochul signed into law, and most of them came effect in January of this year. So we have early mail voting, which New York State never had before. They had absentee voting, but not early mail. So absentee was you had to have an excuse. So you had to be out of the country. You might have had, you know, if you were in the hospital or something else, if you were sick. But now anyone can apply for an early mail ballot. So like I mentioned, there's the mail-in ballot or early mail ballot. There's early voting, which is actually going on right now in New York City. And then there's the actual election day, which is on April 2nd. So, you know, all of this, if you want to do an early mail ballot, you can request the ballot online. Again, at the New York City Board of Elections, it'll be mailed to you. You complete it, you put it in the signed security envelope, you sign it, and you mail it, or you can drop it off at any early poll site. So if for some reason you knew you were going to be out of town, you asked for an early mail ballot, but you were here on the first day of early voting, you could go to that poll site and just drop it off. You can mail it, or you could drop it off at the Board of Elections. And they're all postage paid, so you don't have to worry about trying to figure out how much postage do I put on there. So that's already done.
It was amazingly easy to do.
Yeah, no, it is. You do. So I think sometimes the hardest thing for some people is to line up the little boxes when you put all the envelopes in.
Oh, that was tricky. And to make sure you sign the other one, you have to sign the other one.
Exactly.
The other thing though is to your point, having them get in touch, email or phone, because they will get in touch with you, which is incredible. And they'll do it in a timely manner for you to correct it and get it in time. So kudos to them, really.
Yeah. So that's why we do recommend putting one of those pieces of information versus just your mailing address. So, or you can vote early voting, which, like I said, is going on now. And the site Vote NYC is a great site to look up your poll location. You put in your address, your street address, and it will tell you your early voting poll site, which is very often different from election day poll site. So you don't want to just assume that maybe the school where you go to on election day is your early voting poll site. It usually isn't. And then the hours of early voting poll sites are also different than election day. They're not as long, but it is for 9 days before election day. So it starts the Saturday, 2 Saturdays before election day, and ends generally on the Sunday before election day. However, because this Sunday is Easter Sunday, early voting ends on Saturday. So generally it would run from the Saturday before to the Sunday just before the actual election day. And then election day, obviously, you can vote on election day. The polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And again, you just want to check your polling place. Sometimes they change from year to year. So where you voted last year for city council, it might be different. You know, again, sometimes schools might not have the ability to close their school or allow it to be used as a polling place. It really depends. So you just want to check and make sure you have that information versus showing up to the wrong place and being frustrated. And again, it's really easy to go on vote.nyc and they have a poll site locator. So in terms of, can you still vote in person if you requested an early mail ballot? So you can, however, what you would do is, say you requested one because you thought you were going to be out of town, and then it ends up you're not out of town and you'd rather go and vote in person. Because you requested an early mail ballot, they will have it marked in the poll book. So what you want to do is when you go into the polling location, you want to tell them you want an affidavit ballot. So you would fill that out. It would be a paper ballot. You would fill it out. You would put it in the secure envelope. And then what happens is they check and make sure you didn't mail in your early mail, because obviously you don't get 2 votes. You only get 1. And as long as they confirm that you never mailed in your mail-in ballot, they will use the affidavit ballot. So you can do it. You won't be able to take a ballot, mark it, and put it in the ballot marking machine, like you would do if you didn't request an early mail ballot. Is that somewhat clear? It's
Very clear.
Yeah, it's just to make sure that you don't, inadvertently vote twice.
As opposed to what you can do in Chicago regularly.
Isn't it vote early, vote often in Chicago?
Vote early, vote often. Absolutely. I grew up with that.
And absolutely, you can vote if you're disabled. You can request a ballot marking accessibility. So they have to provide all of this to you. You can do it in advance. You can request one that allows you to do it through your computer, or when you get to the poll site. So just, before you go in to vote, it's important, I guess for Tuesday, it's just the presidential office that is on the ballot. So it's one office. I think a lot of us know who might be on the ballot. One other thing I should just make sure that everyone knows is, in New York State, we're what we call a closed primary state. So there are open primary states or closed primary state. So in order to vote in a primary, you need to register in a political party when you fill out your registration. So you have to register as a Republican or a Democrat. Now, if you decide you don't want to identify in either one of those parties, that's perfectly okay. And you cannot pick an affiliation, a party affiliation, but you will not be able to vote in the primaries. So the primary on April 2nd, if you did not identify as a Republican or a Democrat, you can't vote in that primary. And then there is another primary on June 25th, where we will be deciding congressional seats, your congressperson. One of our senators is on the ballot as well, Senator Gillibrand, and then all our state representatives, not the governor, but our state assembly people and our state senators. So the state legislature, they will all be on the ballot as well in June. So anyone can vote, as long as you're registered, can vote in November in the general election. You don't have to be, your party affiliation doesn't matter whether you're in a party or not in a party. It's just for the primaries. So unfortunately, if you weren't in a primary, if you hadn't declared a primary and you wanted to vote in June, it's too late. The deadline to change to either register in a party or to change your party affiliation was February 14th. So hopefully everyone, if you're voting in New York City or New York State, you're registered in a party. Again, it gives you the option. You don't have to vote in the primary if you just decide not to, but it gives you the option of voting in a primary. And in New York State, as Cassandra had mentioned earlier, a lot gets decided at the primary level. So by the time you vote in the general election, a lot of you might say there's less competition. And a lot of the sort of competition and who you might favor happens at the primary level. So, and again, that doesn't mean you need to register in any political party, but just wanted to make sure you understand in New York State, it's a little bit different than being able to show up on Tuesday and vote for whoever you wanted. Hi, Steph.
Hi, talking about a sample ballot, could you speak a little bit about the, obviously, like you said, there's going to be the the candidates, but there's the
Oh.
delegates on there this time around, and
Mhm.
how does that relate to the presidential candidates?
So, okay, so the delegates are actually, you're voting, say you're voting for, Joe Biden, let's just, for example. It's actually the delegates that you're voting for the delegates that represent the Democrat that you choose. So his delegates, who then they go to the, oh, you're gonna,
The
no.
convention.
Yes, the convention, and they vote as, say, a block or a state. Some states they can have split delegates or split, it's like partial. So that's how the delegates get assigned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So just, you still, there's only like 6 for the 6 you need to vote for, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're still, I mean, it seems a little odd that you're voting for delegates and the person you want as president, but it does make sense.
cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Are those delegates the same people as the electoral college members, or are they different?
I think they're different.
Yeah, I think
I
they're
think they're
different.
different,
That's
different.
a good question.
I think they're very different.
We can't vote for electoral college.
I don't think so. I think the people in the state select the electoral college and we select people in the state.
Right. I'll confirm them.
Yeah, the delegates are DNC delegates, and then the electoral college is by state.
Right. Okay. So, I guess one thing that you want to do before you go into the voting booth or before you fill out your ballot, if you requested one at home, is to see, who and what is on the ballot. So, again, most people know about Joe Biden and I guess Donald Trump and maybe the people who are, or, that are running for the presidential primary. But in June, if you are voting in the primary in June, there's probably going to be a lot more people on the ballot. People, maybe you're not as familiar with your assembly person or your state senator. You want to see where they stand on issues that you care about. So you can see a sample ballot on Vote NYC. And then, like I mentioned before, the league maintains this website called Vote 411, which has nonpartisan ballot information and information about candidates. We ask them questions, the same questions to each candidate, and you get to read their answers and see maybe their positions align with how you feel on certain issues. Obviously, we try to get all candidates to participate in our Vote 411. Because it's voluntary and optional, it's not something mandated. We get varying degrees of cooperation, as you might imagine. And we don't want to sort of, search the internet and get answers that we think are accurate. We want to get it straight from the campaign and the candidate. But it's important to, make sure that you're comfortable with who you're voting for. And a lot of people, like you said about judges, there's not a lot of information on judges. And actually, we at the league are trying to figure out how we can get more information to people, because we heard that a lot last year when people were voting, is they didn't know who these judges were, where they stood. And because judges are supposed to be nonpartisan and not have views, that they are not supposed to give their, all of that's not supposed to be out there. But I think people wanted to see their qualifications, what experience they had, all of that. And we're trying to figure out ways, how can we get that information more accessible to the voters?
What's the percentage of candidates that actually respond to you when you ask them to talk about stuff?
So I think on on a state, because we obviously do this for New York State, we get a decent response. It's not as good on the city level.
Oh.
So my guess is for city council last year, we reached out to all the candidates, and many of them were running unopposed, so there wasn't necessarily a competitor. My guess is we had 40 to 50% that
That's not so
answered the
bad.
questions. Yeah, it's not so bad. We would hope that they would all want their information to be out there, and that, their positions on key issues that were of concern to New Yorkers, would be out there. So, and
It's
again,
hard to deny it when it's out there.
it's hard to deny it, but we're just, I think it's also, some people just don't want their views. They don't want you to maybe understand what they're about.
Right. Then you
so they
can't,
don't
you
want
can't
them.
fudge it. You can't change it or twist it a little bit. So, but I think 40 to 50% is great.
Well, we would like it higher, but thank you. Yeah. No, we, every year we try and improve it. And also, just like we said, we don't just vote for candidates, we vote for ballot proposals. So either they could be changes to the New York State Constitution, or they could be changes to the New York City Charter, which is what you might call our city constitution. So in 2019, actually, New York City voted on ranked choice voting, and that became part of the New York City Charter. In 2022, we had an Environmental Bond Act on the state ballot, as well as on the city ballot. We had 2 racial justice ballot proposals that passed and are now part of the New York City Charter. And in November, on New York State ballot, so this is everyone in the state, it's not just in the city, we're going to have the Equal Rights Amendment, which is just for New York State. It's changing, it's enshrining equal rights in the New York State Constitution. And in order to get on the ballot, and make changes to the state constitution, you have to pass, the law has to pass 2 consecutive sessions of the legislature, but different bodies. So it had to be in one, say the 2022 session and then the 2023 session. So 2 different sessions of the legislature had to pass it. So ERA did that, and now it's appearing on the ballot in November. So that is something that the league supports. We took a position to support that, the legislation and the ballot proposal. So we will be doing a lot of education to voters to make sure they understand what it means, what the changes, how the changes will benefit all New Yorkers. So it's just something important to understand, and that would be on the Vote 411 site. We have information if there aren't any ballot proposals. And generally, we would put pros and cons so that people can evaluate as they want. So just, what to expect if you do go to the poll site, which table to go to, who can go with you, what happens if you're not in the poll book. So just some things is that you can't bring animals with you to the poll site. You can bring a child. If you need assistance, or you can bring someone to help you. You can also request translators, or you can bring someone that will help you translate if they don't have the ballot in the language that you would like. You'll give your name and address when you enter, and they'll direct you to your election district table. And then you, again, will tell them your name and address. And if for some reason they are not in your name doesn't appear in the poll book, but you're registered, just confirm that they have the spelling of your name correct and your address correct, to make sure there wasn't any mistakes. And then if they still don't find you, you ask them for an affidavit ballot. Tell them that you want to complete an affidavit ballot. and you will complete an affidavit ballot, and it will be given to the Board of Elections, and your ballot will still count. And if you do, so when you are given the ballot, you'll go to a privacy booth to make your choices, make your selections. And then if by chance you make a mistake, do not rip up the ballot. They collect all those ballots. All those ballots are tied to a number. So you need to return the ballot to the poll worker, and they will give you a new ballot. They will hold on to that ballot and make sure it's voided, but they have to account for every ballot they give out. So they ask, if you make a mistake, it's fine. Don't rip it up. Don't put it in your pocket. You return it to the poll worker, and they will give you a new ballot. And again, you fill out the ballot, and then you will, enter it into the machine. So it records your votes. So just, now you've registered, you've found out where you need to go, you've decided how you're going to vote. Is it early? Is it, by absentee? And you've been informed, you've read up on the candidates or the ballot proposals. So, and now you voted. So what else can you do? Tell 5 to 10 friends and family about voting, how it's important for their voice to be heard. You can train with the League of Women Voters to vote, to run your own voter registration drive in your community or at your church or your synagogue, or your gym or, your building. You can train to be a poll worker. I know that the New York City Board of Elections is looking for more poll workers. So that's an important role, and you can look on the New York City Board of Elections website, and they have links about training to be a poll worker. And obviously to vote in every election. I mean, I know that a lot of people vote primarily in presidential elections, which absolutely is important, but voting in your local elections is really important. Last year, like I said, every city council member was up for election or re-election. And the turnout for the city council in New York City of eligible voters or registered eligible voters was 13%. So that's pretty dismal. These are the people that, make decisions about police, your security, your trash pickup, the parks. Are they expanding childcare? Are they keeping pre-K? So these are your elected officials that can make decisions or making decisions about your day-to-day life. So it's really important. And this is, something obviously that the league is really, what we're all about is it's important to vote in every election. It's not just don't wait every 4 years when the president is up, but please exercise your voice every opportunity you have to vote. So whether it be a primary and you're registered in a party or in a local election. Next year, the mayor is up for election. So, we hope to increase that 13%. In presidential elections, it's a lot more. It's about, I think it's between 50 and 60%, which it should be a lot more. In the mayoral election, when Mayor Adams was elected, I think it was about 37%. So again, not even half of eligible New Yorkers.
Okay, people who say are independent or not registered with the poll, can they vote in this April 2nd election? Is there anything they can do?
Unfortunately, you have to be registered in a party. So you either have to be registered as a Democrat or a Republican. Yeah, no. And the same with the June primary.
Oh, really? Okay, that too?
Yeah.
So what do they do for the council? Could they do council with one of the last election? Were they able to vote for the council members?
The council also has primaries.
Wow.
They had primaries in June last year.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's because New York is a closed primary state. Yeah. So, and in New York City, almost 90% of eligible citizens are registered to vote. So it's not so much that we have a registration issue, but we have a turnout issue. So it's making sure more people turn out and understand how important their voice is. So, just lastly, sort of a voter checklist. You've registered, you've verified your registration, you know the dates, you decided how to vote, you know where your poll site is, you made your decisions, you know how and when you're going to go to the poll site. You're going to bring a friend or to vote, not to accompany you, but and then important voting websites. So you're all ready to be an educated and informed voter. So that's really sort of it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. Kai, I really appreciate your time on this.
Yeah, no, and I'll just leave you with one quote is we don't have, this was from Thomas Jefferson, we don't have a government by the majority, we have a government by the majority who participate. So, just important again to participate.
That's so true.
T-shirt, wonderful T-shirt.
I wanted to just ask a quick question, Kai, about how would you walk through somebody who's from out of state, and this includes a lot of people at TC who are students and alumni, and they might be living in New York and they're not quite sure. Yeah, pick on Lauren, for example. She, from Wisconsin. Somebody from Wisconsin, for example, or maybe a different state where I'm living in New York. Should I register? Should I change my status or vote absentee in my home state? How would you walk them through that?
Well, I mean, again, I guess it's where you feel your vote might have, I guess where you feel it might do the most difference, maybe.
If you're in a battleground state, then you go home and vote.
Well, I mean, I don't want to, again, at the league, we're nonpartisan. So if you feel you have more attachment to Wisconsin or your hometown, then, I would say register to vote there and you could vote by absentee. But if you feel that you want to make a difference or you want your voice heard in New York City, then I would register to vote in New York City. I mean, that's something that is more personal to the individual.
Definitely a personal decision, and maybe encouraging the person to study the issues back home, what's at stake there, and just that's great. Like kind of nonpartisan.
As well as the candidates. I mean, there might be somebody that you feel very passionate about in Wisconsin or in your hometown that you really want to help get elected or keep out of office, if you will. If there's somebody that you don't want to get into office. And the same in New York City. You might have very strong feelings about somebody that you want to see continue or you don't want to see continue. So that might sway your decision. In terms of local resources in each state, I don't know all the different sort of websites of every individual state, but I will say that the league's Vote 411 you can put in your address or your state, and then it will have links in for that particular state. So you could find if you're in Maine or in Wisconsin or Illinois or whatever. So there would be some links there that would direct you to appropriate places.
Oh, that's really helpful. Yeah, thanks for that. So Maddie and Lauren, as you're walking the TC community through, and you get that question about voting absentee, that we could channel Kai's good advice. Other folks have questions?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are there any apps that are available, even if it's specific by state, that can help people learn more about elections?
That's a good one. I'm trying to think of, I don't know of specific apps. Let me see what maybe our state league or somebody else recommends. I know websites, I don't know specific apps necessarily, but let me do a little digging. If I find some ones that are, that are good and nonpartisan, I'll let Matt know and he can share the information.
Yeah, and we've looked at Ballotpedia. I don't know again if they have an app.
Right.
Vote.org is great.
Right.
And then they have mobile editions or mobile versions that could be helpful.
I know I follow a couple of these, the NYC vote.org on Instagram, and they post a lot of good information on some of their social media sites. So, if you're on Instagram or some of those sites, you can get a lot of that. I'm not sure how many of them have their own standalone app.
Okay, thank you.
Kai,
but let me look into it and I'll let Matt know.
Yeah, we'll follow up for sure. Before we started recording, Kai, we were just catching up and chatting, and you mentioned the league had a really cool, fun volunteer event at Alamo Draft House with food and everything. And is there any other kind of upcoming volunteer event in the next month or so that people we would like to share with people?
We have volunteer opportunities all the time to help register voters or do civic engagement presentations. We don't at this moment, I don't think on the schedule, have another volunteer recruitment. I was explaining to Matt and Lauren that we have a busy year, just sort of informing voters, explaining what's on the ballot, all of that, talking about how you can use your voice outside of the voting booth in terms of lobbying and advocacy and making a difference in your community. And we partner a lot with high schools in doing civic engagement presentations in high schools. So we have a lot of requests to do these things. So we're looking for more volunteers and people to help us. And, so we had a recruitment event where we did a film screening of the movie Irresistible, which was Jon Stewart's sort of political satire movie on a mayoral campaign in, of all places, Wisconsin. And and then we discussed opportunities with the guests. So we did that at the Alamo Draft House in Brooklyn last night. So, but I'll definitely, Matt, if we have another recruitment event, and I can certainly share with you the calendar of opportunities. I can actually put that in the chat.
Perfect.
That's a good question. This may be unfair. When Justice Sandra O'Connor died, they were what I kept reading about was that one of the things she got, obviously she left the judiciary, but she completely focused herself on civics and educating young people in high school. Do you have any information about what she did? Were there programs she started or apps? Well, apps, I don't know about apps, but websites she started, anything like that?
I don't know specifically what she did. I know she was very involved in that. And I don't know if it was a certain area or if it was a national. I do know that, in New York City and New York State, civics is not a priority right now.
Yeah, it wasn't in Chicago either.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I think so we really approach it almost on a school by school basis and really have to go to social studies teachers.
Got it.
And there are some really passionate social studies teachers throughout New York City. So that's what we're doing. It's a very sort of slow and handheld process. There are, we've identified a number of them, but we're not certainly at the, I think
it's not a systems thing.
It's not a system wide. They're, they do have a civics week in New York City, which we just had in early March, where they focus the schools for 1 week. That's think it should be, no, it's definitely great. We don't think it should just be 1 week.
Yeah, but that's a start.
But so they are starting to do some of that, but we focus, we will create partnerships with individual schools where we know that there's somebody who's really very interested in the kids learning about this. And there are some great organizations like Generation Citizen and Why Vote, which are geared to like high school and younger kids. And we partner with them a lot in doing presentations or going into schools and registering students to vote. 16 now, actually, this was another law that Hochul passed in September of last year, that 16 and 17-year-olds, well, they can pre-register to vote. And she now made it a requirement of all schools, public, charter, schools in New York State, that they need to they need to have a program of information and education in the school and inform students that you have the opportunity. They don't have, they can't make them register.
Sure, of course not.
They have to talk to them about you can
That's a
register.
great idea. I didn't know that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that was one of the laws she passed last September.
That's correct.
So yeah, which is great. And I've worked in schools where the social studies teacher has just focused on 16 and 17-year-olds, like his sophomore and juniors, I guess, and registered as many people who were able to and wanted to. And then he would hold on to those, at the time, he would hold on to those registrations and wait until they turned 18 and send them in. Now they get filed right away with the BOE and they have it in their system that they know when they turn 18.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So wait, I'm just gonna, this is a link to the volunteer calendar on the league website. So there are all different opportunities.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Perfect.
no, thank you.
And while we're still recording, if there's time for one more question, otherwise we'll stop the recording. We can hang out for a couple more minutes. Going once, going twice. Okay, I will stop the recording. I just want to thank you again, Kai, and we'll share this out with our alumni community.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'll get back to you if I find any apps.
Definitely. Okay, I'll stop the recording.
I hope